Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 203 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Sebastian Pfeifer. He's a digital artist and musician with a strong passion for fluid animations and cool beats from Büdingen, Germany. And of course, before we go into the introduction and everything, I just want to quickly mention that in the for contact section in the captions, you can find the ID to his, you can find his Instagram ID, the link to his website, and Twitter profile, and also just those links, like things that host a bunch of other lists, a bunch of links. Yeah, that you can go check out his NFT collections there as well if you want to check those works out. And with that being said, let's jump into the first signature question of the podcast, which I ask everyone, which is give us a little introduction on how you got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically tell us the story of how you basically found your route to the world of visual arts and just want to become an artist and all that.
All right. First of all, good evening. I'll start at the beginning. So I always, as a kid, I loved to draw. I was into, as a teenager, I was into graffiti and I also always was a music nerd, so I started making beats at the age of 16 with synthesizers and samplers and some hardware effects and stuff like that. And yeah, when I graduated from school, there was I wasn't sure if I should go into music or into graphic design, and thankfully I took the graphics design route. I'm married to a musician now, and I know she's not. It's being a musician is much tougher these days in terms of trying to really make a living out of it. So and I've learned typographer. So I didn't go to uni. I didn't study. After I finished school, I took an apprenticeship as a typographer in a print shop, actually. And after that, in Germany, you back then you had to do like military service or just a substitution service to the military service. So you would work in a hospital or whatever for a year. So I did that, and so I didn't went to the military. I did that. I actually worked in a hospital, and after that, I just applied to advertising agencies as an art director. Nobody hired me as an art director, but one advertising agency actually did hire me, and a year later, I was promoted to junior art director, and another year later to art director. And then one day, my boss accidentally let me know how much she charges the client for an hour of my time. And the next day, I quit and started my own business at the age of 24. Was that, I guess? Yeah, and since then, I've been freelancing. So in the beginning, I was doing like classic graphics design. I had a lot of friends in the music business. So naturally, in the beginning, I did a lot of record and CD covers and stuff like that. And also, I knew few people in the in the club business. So like everyone, I did a bunch of flyers and whatnot to make a living. And yeah, but I was always interested in animation. And during my time at the agency, I had my first contacts with animation by learning Flash back then. And then I learned After Effects, and then I learned 3D software. I actually started out with quite a niche software. I don't know if you know that. It's called Animation Master. It's
No,
really
I
a
haven't heard of
dinosaur.
that.
It's still around, I think. Um, but it's really good for character animation. It still has some features I wished C4D had here and there. But yeah, and I just gradually taught myself over the years how to animate, and I always I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, but I like the 3D workflow more than traditional animation. So I kind of always try to make 3D look like 2D, and yeah, and over the years I refined my techniques more and more, and then at some point I started mixing it with 2D frame by frame animation, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
All right, and that's kind of interesting, when I'm thinking about it, because I checked some of your works, from Twitter as well, because so wait, a lot of your works you're utilizing 2D and 3D at the same time, in order to make
Yeah,
them. Interesting, because yeah, it had this feel of volume to your works as well, and I was like, it must be really hard to do it in fully 2D. And I was like,
yeah, it is, and I really suck at drawing, so could never pull any of that off without the help of 3D. And how much is 3D and how much is 2D? It varies from piece to piece. So some are almost entirely 3D and just have a few 2D frame by frame bits in there, and others are entirely 2D frame by frame, but with 3D reference. Like I always, for character perspectives and stuff like that, I always model the character in 3D, even if it's not shaded or anything, just for the to get the perspectives right, and to play with camera animation and with camera angles and stuff like that.
all right, and speaking of that whole process, I want to go. Let's go a little bit in more detail. Like in general, what does the structure of your pipeline looks like whenever you want to work on a new piece, basically? Like what steps do you usually take when it comes to producing a new art piece?
So that's also, I think, quite unconventional. I always start with the music. So I produce the loop, the music loop first, and then I usually just and at that stage I mostly don't have any idea what I'm about to make. I leave that open intentionally. Sometimes I do have an idea when I before I sit down and do the music, but I would say in 90% of cases I don't. So I just produce the music, and then I once I'm happy with it, I listen to the loop over and over again, and most of the time, even when I'm doing it, ideas come to mind. How could the animation look like, what it is about, and all of that. And the more I listen to it, the clearer the picture gets, what I want to do. But it's still not it's still never really entirely fleshed out, so I don't really know, oh no, here's gonna happen that. And it's more like of, oh, this is gonna be the mood of the piece, like this is kind of really the feeling I want to get when watching it, and and then I usually start designing the characters, and then I model the character in C4D and rig it, and then I just import the loop and I start animating. So I don't storyboard or anything when I do my my artworks. I never storyboard as long as it's just me involved. Like if I work on a commercial project with a bigger team, like of course there has to be like a storyboard, because otherwise it's just gonna be chaos. But if it's just me, I like to just go with the flow and go wherever just starting animating takes me. So when I start animating, I usually still don't have a clear picture, like what is the animation going to be like? How does it loop in the end? I never know that when I start animating. What I often do have in mind is a few strong key poses, but other than that, everything is more or less completely improvised, and I just go with the flow and see where the thing takes me, and then in the end, I'm trying to loop it smoothly. That's sometimes easier, and sometimes it's quite tricky, like to end up with a starting pose again, so it really loops smoothly. So, and once I'm happy with a 3D animation, I render that out, and again, how much effort I put into the looks when rendering it, it differs. If I know, oh, I'm gonna frame by frame animate the whole piece anyways, like I did, for instance, with a piece Cloud Control, then I don't care how the rendering looks like. I just want it as a reference to draw over. But if it's if a good portion of it will like stay the 3D rendering without drawing over it, of course I try to make it look right and to make it look good. And and then I usually go into After Effects and tinker with the looks, because I always want, like I want an idea before I start putting all the work into the 2D frame by frame animation. I want an idea, how does that look like in the end with like with color correction and with effects and whatnot. So once I've done that and I'm happy with that, I just export files to import then on the iPad in CaliPeg, and I start I start drawing, and again, how much time that takes, or it really varies from piece to piece, and how much is actually frame by frame animated. So, for instance, often like I have a couple of pieces with like women with long hair, and I usually render them out bald headed, and then I draw the hair with frame by frame animation on top of it, and then in the end everything just gets combined. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.
All right, awesome. And before, when we were talking about, how we got into the world of visual arts and design, you mentioned your boss accidentally revealed that, how much money she, gets paid actually for the commissions and your hourly rates. It reminded me of something. I'm not going to go into too much details, but to anyone who's listening, to those who might be uninitiated, who might not know, if you're working in a company or a studio or a workplace, doesn't matter, you're getting paid the least amount possible they could pay you. So if you know your worth, ask for more, and if they don't oblige, get out and start freelancing, honestly. Because I used to be, I'm just going to say, I used to be an English teacher, and I used to teach like the high levels for TOEFL and IELTS exams, advanced students. But when I found out how much they actually get from the customers and how much I pay, I actually got paid less 12% of the money they were getting. Right. And I was doing all the heavy liftings. And apparently it's a norm. I don't want to mention any names or anything, but it's true in everything. It's not just in art or just any job. Listen, we're living in a capitalistic world, and you're probably getting paid the least amount possible. So know your worth and try to, find a way around it to become a freelancer. And if your quality is not high enough, and if your quality is not high enough to become a freelancer, then maybe take a step back, go move into your parents' house again if you can, or a friend's house or something, and spend a couple of months on your quality of work, and so you can, get high quality commissions. And that is my personal, anecdotal suggestion. But a lot of people might disagree with me. But it's a miserable world out there. Let's just say that.
I agree entirely, and a lot of people are actually afraid to go freelance. But I always ask them, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, really, the worst that can happen is you fail, you don't get any gigs, and then you apply at another studio and get employed again. It's usually not a problem if you can do something, like if you can bring value to a pipeline, then some other studio will hire you as well. So I think it's something that everyone who has the desire to do so should try that once in their life at least, to follow that path, because it can really work out. And I personally couldn't imagine anymore, being employed. It's just, I've been a freelancer now for over 20 years now, so I can't imagine any other way of working.
Yeah, exactly. But I think timing is also a bit tricky because I don't know, maybe I'm not entirely sure. I really am not about the thing, but in some cases, if you're a newbie and an amateur and you want to get a head start in life and stuff like that, when you want to start working as a freelancer, it depends, of course, on a lot of factors, obviously.
Sure.
It could be a bit tricky these days, especially to get your, upstart first. And of course, depends on the field as well. But maybe, I don't know, let's say 2007, 8, around those times, of course, freelancing wasn't that as much as active as these days, of course. But because the amount of freelancers back then were much lower, so there wasn't much competition. All right. Now, if you just on every different website, 99 Design, Fiverr, all of these places that you can get freelance gigs. And of course, those are the common places you get gigs. And of course, if you're actually good and have a good portfolio on different social medias, commissions will come your way. That's another topic. But in general, the starting phase I think is much more competitive these days, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. And it just pushes people to work on their skills and find their art style. They come to that realization much sooner than later, I think, because of the competition. And but in the end, the thing that always speaks for itself, regardless of the timeline, I think, is just the quality. If you could just set a specific time for yourself and just work on your own style, that will pay off. That will pay in dividends in the long term for you, because that's what I'm doing right now. Like, I quit my job.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. I quit my job. I saved up money for about 3 to 4 months, and I'm just going all in, on practicing my skills, like in texturing and other stuff I'm lacking, so I can actually get commissions. And I could, of course, stay in my old job, which I was really unhappy. It gave a steady income, but it wasn't that well. And yeah, I'm just risking all right now with everything I have, and if it happens, that happens. If it doesn't happen, then at least I tried. I don't have that regret,
Right, exactly. And if you just spend time working on what you like doing the most in your spare time, then and you put that out there, and people will resonate with it, and jobs will come. That's usually how it works. You just have to be passionate about what you do, and do it good, and do it, like people can see that. And then yeah. So these days, I mean, of course, in the beginning, for me, it was also, like I didn't have much money, and it wasn't always easy, of course, but and my situation was, like when I started my own business, I was single. I didn't have a family back then. Like it's different if you have a family to feed. That's totally get that. You can't take certain risks and stuff, but still, if you can manage to put aside some amount of savings, then I would still encourage people to try it.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing is, like I don't want to get into like deep philosophical subjects. I'm sorry, but the thing that I've really noticed, especially lately, the more I pay attention to people around me, is that at the deep core level, I think the thing that's ruined everything is kind of like capitalism. Not necessarily, it's not entirely, but I think the major capitalistic factors and motivations of people is really corrupts their genuine artistic passion and expression, which in a sense you could say it's a good thing as well. It separates people who are genuinely passionate for their craft, except people who are not really passionate for their craft and they're just in it for the money. You've seen that. Of course, we're going to talk about this topic a bit later. Like, you've seen that in NFTs. A lot of people just saw art equals money, and it resulted in a lot of low quality artwork. It's the same thing in AI. Like, go on YouTube and search, what I don't like, this whole hustle entrepreneurship culture that's been, popping off, especially this past couple of years. A lot of those channels made I swear I'm not joking. They made with titles and thumbnails that how to make money with AI art, $5,000 in a month. And oh my God, when you add capital to something, there's a high risk of it getting corrupted in a sense, And yeah, I think people should really dig deep and try to find them who they are within themselves, because when you find out what you really like, you're just going to do it regardless of if you make money or not. Of course, you need some sort of sense of security in your life. I get that. But in the end, I think it's extremely important. If you want to actually leave a legacy, if you want to actually, do something in the field that you love, I think that only happens if you're actually are passionate about what you're doing. Because if you're not, you're competing against people who are doing it for fun. You're doing it for work. You're doing it for work. You're doing all those studies for work. They're doing it for fun in their spare time. That's the difference. It's not just in art, by the way. Like in programming, there are programmers who've been. I had programming friends when I was in uni. I dropped out, by the way. I was studying computer science. Long story, and there were some of them who started coding since they were 12. All right. Now, don't get me wrong. I like coding. All right, but I wasn't as much passionate about it than those people. So of course, I lagged behind them a lot. And in the field, and if I want to get a high position in that field, I could never do that because I wasn't as passionate as the other people in the field. You know. So
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's kind of like investing in yourself long term in your field. And if you're not really passionate about it, you're not going to go anywhere that far in it, in my opinion. Like, I mean, this is just common knowledge, but most people don't really get this stuff. They just, the only thing they can see is just money. And I get that, but to an extent, it becomes kind of problematic, I think, you know?
Totally agree.
Ooh, yeah, I don't have beer to drink with you, but cheers, I'm just going to drink water.
Cheers.
And yeah, another interesting question I actually have from you is, have you ever used your dreams as inspiration for your works?
Yes, I have a couple of times now. So there's this one piece. Don't know if you have seen that or if you have that in mind. It's called Tautological Dream. So this piece is about a reoccurring dream of mine, which I had for decades now, actually. And it's a really weird dream. And like usually I don't like it that much when people talk about their dreams, because they are always like, yeah, you dreamt weird shit. It's all right. I do that too. Please don't tell me about your weird dreams. But this one I really found interesting because it's been around for so long and it has so many variables, and the fact that I have it over and over again, and the fact that the protagonists in this dream switch according to my real life situation was really interesting to me. So and I can't make any sense out of that dream, like I have no idea what it means. Like I have other dreams which I have on a regular basis. They are not quite that, like specific and don't have this interchangeable components, but like I can make sense of that dream. Like I know, okay, this is because I'm afraid of this and that, and that's why I have that dream over and over again. But this one, I don't know why I have that. So in this dream, I'm in some sort of mansion, like it looks very fancy, but like in a stylish 70s way or 60s 70s design way. It looks like like a like the mansion of a James Bond villain, where like everything is kind of bright and white, and there's like pools with little bridges on top of it, and I always had cats. So in this dream, my cats are swimming through the pools like otters, but also not just through the pools. So this mansion has several pools, and they are all connected through some sort of little rivers and canals. And the cats just swim through that like otters. And I'm just I'm just a third person in that dream. I don't actively participate in that dream, but I'm watching, like, so I can see my cats swimming around, and I'm looking for them, and I'm trying to keep up with them. And at some point, my girlfriend or wife or whatever relationship status I had at that point appears as well and starts swimming with a cat. And usually that's quite a nice and relaxing dream. But sometimes there's a twist in it that, like there's then also like crocodiles or sharks or whatever predators in that system of pools and canals, and I'm afraid that they're gonna eat my cats or girlfriend and wife. But that's more the rare case. In most cases, it's a nice dream I have, but yeah, like I said, I don't really can make any sense out of it. And yeah, so that was one piece I wanted to make about that dream, just capture a little of the feeling of it.
Interesting. And actually, I have this question in my questionnaire for our podcast for guests, specifically for those guests who do like those really interesting abstract stuff, and because I personally, have very imaginative, detailed dreams as well since I was a kid, and I'm not kidding. I even remember some of my dreams when I was like maybe 1 or 2 years old. Like I remember
That's
a couple
great.
of you. Yeah, like
I don't.
And here's the thing. Let me tell you something interesting. When I was 4, I remember I had these dreams where, like, you need to have some sort of input first, so they go to your subconscious and you see them in your dreams and somehow. But I had their dreams with so much details that fantasy or even sci-fi dreams with so much details and just nuance that I don't think I've ever seen enough fantasy movies or series when I was 3 or 4. Like it's really weird. But not to get off on the track, I want to say actually something really interesting about your dream. The dreams have been always a subject for me that's been super interesting to me. But from my experience, dreams that are usually reoccurring, it's originates from some sort of deep-seated anxiety or stress that's always in your subconscious mind, usually even for myself. Like I don't want to get into too much details of my own dreams, but I have very specific nightmares when I'm stressed. Like they're always the same. Maybe the variety will change. Very specific, very thought pattern. Like your brain exactly knows in your file folders a cache of your brain, which things induce the most amount of anxiety. And it uses that and it fabricates this really bizarre dreams. I even had one last night. Oh my God. And, but I guess the best thing we can do is just, try to physically reduce anxiety, I guess. Not drink coffee or eat food before sleep, not work out, stuff like that. But I think from even your dream, in a sense, I'm not really a dream interpreter or anything, but I think the thing I'm feeling from your dream is that you, on a deep subconscious level, you kind of have like this fear of not being able to have control over the important things in your life, or maybe the things you matter. Because
that could be.
Because you mentioned multiple pools. If it was one pool, it was contained in a space, and you had easy oversight and overview over it. But there's multiple pools. It's like you always have to be in constant lookout of where they are, where's the location of them. So I think there's that as well. And of course, the crocodiles and sharks, you said, I think they're pretty self-explanatory what they could mean.
Yeah, those but again, like this dream only turns bad like in, I would say, like 5% of cases. In the other cases, it's fine. There's still a little bit of, like, oh, I can't keep up a feeling involved in that. So you definitely might be right, but it's not per se like a bad dream. Like it's more of a nice dream. Yeah, neutral to sometimes even a really, really nice and beautiful dream. So yeah, but I think you're right about that. I've thought about this as well, that this might be one component. I still find it fascinating that the like it's always of course, like cats don't get that old, and right now I do have a cat that's 2 years old, and a couple of years before my other two cats died, and like, and it's always interchangeable with the cats, and also with like I said, my girlfriend or wife, or whatever I had at that point. So I had this dream for over 20 years now. So
Yeah, I think that's how your subconscious has been, constructed in your head. Like, because you also mentioned like a huge mansion, and that could also mean something. But yeah, because let me tell you something. My dreams, my nightmares, and anxiety dreams are the same as well. They have the same theme. And yeah, it's that, like, this topic is so fascinating to me as well. Like I also like listen a lot of podcasts when it comes to sleep and psychology and all that stuff as well. Like, that's one of the things I'm really interested in as well. And yeah, human brains are really fascinating things, honestly.
yeah, it's also the I mean, in general, that's like the theme in a lot of my works is just the human brain, and how it works, and how like a lot of my pieces are about behavioral patterns. So things you can't really escape, like, and I'm quite an analytical person, and I think I know a lot of my flaws, and a lot of my behavioral patterns, but still I can't overcome them, even though I'm fully aware that, okay, I do this because of that, and I shouldn't do this because of that, and but I still can't help myself, and I do it over and over and over again, and that's kind of where then everything comes together in my art. That it's as all, in most cases, not always, but in most cases, it's that topic, that's about behavioral patterns, and that fits really well with the loops, because in real life you also do it over and over again, and you don't really notice it when you start doing that shit again, and when it ends, and yeah, the same with my loops. So yeah, but sometimes I do pieces that have nothing to do with that. Then it's just fun and nonsense, like with some of my skateboarding pieces and stuff that actually originates because I was skateboarding when I was young, and my body was still up for it. Yeah, that was always a passion of mine, and I these days I can't. Like I said, my body can't skateboard anymore. I just break stuff whenever I step on a skateboard these days. So the closest I can get to the feeling of landing a trick these days is actually like animating a skateboarding trick. So that's quite close to the feeling.
Yep, pretty cool, I guess. And actually, the next question is kind of the question that a lot of people find it hard to answer. And don't worry, it's not nothing really that hard. But all right,
I'm curious.
yeah. Who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Yeah, that's always a tricky one, because there's so many influences, and we kind of mix them all together. I'm just gonna name one because he stands out, and people actually often see that in my work, is Masanobu Hiraoka. So this is kind of when I saw his work the first time, I was like totally blown away, and I couldn't imagine how how in the world would anyone ever do that? And to be honest, when I watch his work, I still think that in most cases. But that really inspired me that much to try out similar things, to really figure out how do these crazy transitions work and all of that. So yeah, I would say if I had to name my number one inspiration, it would definitely be him.
All right. And now let's talk about some, really controversial topics for a lot of our art community these days. Let's talk about AI art and NFTs. I know there's some really general things I just said, but since you're also in the field, and I also, love to hear your perspectives on this issue, but I just want to mention something quickly, to anyone who's listening, I think you've all also kind of got this feeling as well, because of course this podcast is art oriented. So to anyone who's listening, they're probably, in the art community as well. You've probably seen this kind of tribalistic kind of attitude in regards to everything, by the way, not just AI or NFTs or anything like this. It's with software, it's with brush packs, it's with, I don't know, just HDMIs, HDRIs, I don't know, just with everything. But the thing that I really want to encourage everyone to do is to don't take everything for granted. Don't take any perspective for granted. Like, try to always see one subject from as many perspectives as much as possible, and then draw your own personal conclusion. Sure, maybe your conclusion differs from some random art celebrity. That doesn't matter. It's still your conclusion. All right. Listen to as many perspectives as possible and see how you feel about it. And don't be afraid to express it even though it's different. All right. Like, just because everyone's hating on NFTs, don't join the crowd quickly. Find good reasons. See what's the good side that it's brought. At the same time, if you're someone who's deep into NFTs and Web3, oh my God, it's going to change the whole world. Don't try to say like other people are just emotional, drama queens who just want to, because you've seen this trend. Like, I think especially you've seen this for someone who's been in this industry for a long time, actually. There was a lot of discussions about when people start to use photo bashing in concept art. A lot of classical artists were like, oh no, this is cheating. Then they were like using 3D models in concept art. Then again, the same thing. But now they're making AI thing the same thing as those stuff. Like, I know it's a bit kind of getting a bit complicated and tricky, but and you can only see this stuff and you can only distinguish between these aspects of this whole situation when you actually see the whole perspectives of everything. When you do that, you won't mix subjects together and you can see the truth of the matter for what it is. And I think that is really important, in my opinion, not just in art, in everything, in every aspect in life. Now, speaking of first, let's start with NFTs. Like, tell us about, how what made you go into NFT community and when did you join and how's the whole situation? Maybe just spill the beans.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say I entirely agree with what you just said. It's exactly what I always tell people, don't jump on the tribalism bandwagon and just go with what people are hating or favoring on. And even if you are totally into something, never stop questioning it, and that there's good and bad in everything, and there's no especially with those kind of things, there's no black and white. This is good, this is bad, this is everything has its pros and cons and its good sides and its downsides. So yeah, and same with NFTs, of course. When I first heard of NFTs, that was in summer 2020, I think. I was already quite active and involved in the motion graphics community on Twitter, and some people I was following started selling NFTs. in my case, I first saw someone selling NFTs. That was Gustavo, so Kidmograph, and of course, like with everyone else, my first thought was, oh, what is this kind of new bullshit now? And I thought, this sounds weird. This sounds wrong in a way. And then but I've actually read a little bit about it. I've followed the activities of a few people that were into it back then, a bit closer, and I thought about it a little more, and slowly it started to make sense, and I have always been doing my personal projects on the side. So basically, since I can think, I was always, like when I was finished with my commission work, I sit down in the evenings and I worked on short films I wanted to make. I worked on like fun animation stuff I wanted to try out, and I wanted to explore new techniques and play with plugins and all of that, and just create something what I wanted to create. So to me, at some point it kind of made click, because I thought, if I can actually make at least some money with that, so if I will be able to sell a piece here and there for some money, it allows me to spend more time on it, because like when you're freelancing and you want to work on your personal projects, especially like when you do those like my loops take quite some time to make, and before, when I made short films, it even swallowed more time. So sometimes like I worked on a short film for like half a year, but it was always hard to justify that to yourself, like, because you could actually be working right now and earning money, but instead you spent again the whole day, like working on your short film. You should have been working, you idiot, and so my thinking was, like NFTs could actually allow me to do more of what I love doing the most. So, and then I thought, who cares about, like if there's bullshit being sold for millions or whatever? Who cares about all of that? Like if I can find people that are willing to pay for what I love doing the most, then that's a win-win for everybody. Why not just try it? And yeah, of course, I've back then also I've heard about, like one single transaction costs as much energy as an average US household consumes in a month, which is, by the way, not true, because if you do some research, you can find that out quite easily, that those numbers are not that those numbers that were wandering around back then were just false. But no doubt it was consuming too much energy back then. But to me, it was clear then, okay, on a proof of work blockchain, I'm not gonna sell editions that's gonna trigger so many transactions. I'm gonna try also there to keep my footprint quite low. I've always, like I've never had, and that's another thing, like I've never bought a new car in my life. As long as I can think, I drive my old car. I wear my clothes until they fall apart. Like I don't buy a new iPhone every year. I don't, not every 2 years, not every 3 years, not even every 4 years. I think I have this for 5 years now. So it's, and like I don't eat meat and all of that. I always try to like not be an asshole, basically. So I thought, yeah, I think I can afford to trigger like 2 or 3 transactions a month by selling NFTs, and but that argument, because of the environment, was still invalid because of a lot of reasons. And to say like NFTs are shit in general just because of that was even less valid at that point, because there was already proof of stake blockchains out there which you could sell NFTs on, like Tezos or Solana. And those consume as much energy for transaction as opening your fridge and getting a beer out, so the whole environment argument didn't add up to me, like to be against NFTs because of that. That just sounded like people trying to find a reason to be against it, for whatever reason, I don't know. But yeah, and then I thought, all right, I'm going to give that a shot. And in December 2020, I applied to Super Rare, and didn't hear back from them for 2.5 months. And in February, found the foundation platform started, and I've actually Kit Mograph sent me an invite to it. Back then, it was an invite system, and I've minted my first NFT on it, and actually a couple of hours later, it was sold. I got a bit, and it was blowing my mind that, all right, this totally works. So I've minted 3 more on foundation until then. At the end of February, Super Rare, I got the mail from Super Rare that I'm accepted, and I started selling there then. And yeah, and then at some point Hiketnung popped up, and I started also minting NFTs on Tezos, because it was kind of more of a fun platform where you could just experiment freely and just do whatever you like, and whatever is fun to you. And yeah, and since then I've minted and sold NFTs on both platforms, so on Ethereum and on Tezos. And to those who might not know, I've talked to some people that still don't know about this, that Ethereum actually went proof of stake as well in September last year. So transaction energy consumption is not an issue anymore at all. So yeah. That's pretty much about it. As of now, I'm to be honest, like I'm always transparent. I was stupid, and I didn't cash out So as it is of now, I'm actually I barely have made any money with NFTs. But the good news is I made more art, and still there's hope that that Ethereum will go up again, and then I will have made money. But just to explain to the people, you get taxed on the amount the Ethereum was worth at the time you made the sale. So this can be quite bad if if Ethereum was at $4,000 per Ethereum per Ether. At the time of sale, and and then you get taxed on let's say you've made you sold something for 3 Ether, and it was worth 4,000, and then you get taxed on $12,000 income. But if, like it is now, Ethereum is just worth 1,400 right now, then do the math, and you will barely break even after taxes. And actually, a lot of artists are facing that problem because they thought, I'm waiting. I don't have to cash out right now. Somewhere smarter than me, they always cashed out like half of it right away. I should have done that. I have not done that, unfortunately. But you learn as you go. But I'm still happy about all the experiences I've made in the NFT space. It's I've met really really cool people. I've got introduced to artists I didn't even know about before that they existed. My whole spectrum of art that I'm into right now is so much wider than it was before. I'm seeing so much more cool art, and from all different kind of genres, and it's really fun, and the feeling that there's actually people out there that are willing to pay you quite a lot of money just to own your art is also amazing. It's a feeling I wouldn't want to miss anymore if possible. So
Yeah, actually, if I remember correctly, yes, I think it was in 2021 that Ethereum peaked at around, I think, $4,200. Then it crashed really bad, but then it's recovered back, actually, for after a month, I think. Then everything went downhill till today. Yeah, I remember.
It was it was last spring in after Ukraine war started, and stocks went down as well, and Bitcoin and Ethereum crashed with it, and all crypto crashed with it, and since then it's I've just been hoping that it will go up again until I have to do my tax declaration. But it's what can you do?
It is.
It is what it is, and it will. I'm certain it will go up again at some point. It always has. It's just a question how long does it take? But German tax laws, and it's the same in the US. Actually, they they put in an incentive for you to hold it, because if you hold it, your crypto longer than a year, the profits you made from on top of your income, your profit you made from the sale, if the if the ether course goes up and up, like the profit you made out of that just through the course development, if you hold it longer for a year, you don't have to pay any taxes on that additionally. So that's for you the incentive to hold it and to actually not cash out before a year has passed by. Since you made profits out of like course gains, automatically if the course goes up you may make profit, and then you wouldn't have to pay taxes on those as well if you hold it longer for a year. So naturally everyone thought, I'm just going to hold it longer for a year and then cash out, and then I'm fine, I'm good to go. Then because like you have to pay quite a lot of taxes on NFT sales. So in Germany, is if you're like a freelancer like me, and you are in the highest tax class you can be in Germany, then and you pay 40% taxes, and on top of that there's 19% value added tax, which you also have to pay. And that makes 60% taxes on all of your NFT sales. And that's fucked up, And then if someone says, hey, but at least you don't, on the, like on your gains from Ethereum going up, you don't have to pay initial taxes. Of course, you take that bait, and you think, oh, I'm going to hold it. And then everything crashes. And then you think, yeah, I can't sell now. I have to wait until it goes up again. And then it crashes more. And then you think, oh, I should have cashed out at that point, but now it's really too late. And then it crashes more. And then, like you're in that loop. And at some point you just say, oh, come on, fuck you. Who cares?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about something. Have you thought about maybe applying your art style into kind of like an indie game format? Because I personally believe that, a video game in that kind of art style would sell really well, in my opinion. Because these days, listen, I've been studying and just been in the whole video game world since I was 4 or 5 years old, right? And the trend that I've been noticing, that there's like a missing thing that some people accidentally stumble upon it. But if you're an artist who has a developed art style, and there's not much similar things either in animation or video games, like when it comes to like the textures and art style, it haven't been implemented, there's a huge chance of success, I think, right now in the indie game scene, because people will just purchase that game for the sake of that art style right now.
Yeah,
like unique textures and art style right now could really, really are what was some of the biggest sellers of art video games right now. Like there was this artist, and I'm going to have like on the podcast soon, Omar Farouk Tafsif. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, by the way, if you're listening. He's a young, I think, artist, and the thing is, he recently he's really good with 3D hand painting, 3D illustrations, basically. And I think ATLV website even published an article about him. And he basically, do you know Noah Verrier, this oil painter who does paintings with modern subjects, like maybe a classical oil painting of a Big Mac, for example. He basically, the 3D artist I'm mentioning, kind of made one of his artworks in 3D, and it really blew up. So the thing is, he took his hand painting 3D illustration style and made the 2D painting, like it translated that 2D art style into 3D. And that really blew up. And now imagine a video game in that style. A lot of people will just purchase for that. Now, if you add some good design elements and a story to it, boom, easy. Like there's so many opportunities in art and games these days, because everything is so repetitive these days, people think we've peaked when it comes to art, but no, there's so many things we haven't even discovered yet,
Yeah.
And it's so kind of sad to see people these days in art. They're so disappointed. Their whole art journey is revolved around an industry. where mostly the industry, AAA industry, which most of the times they don't really care about artists or art itself. It's just production art, kind of, not all the time or not all cases, of course. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to generalize, but it's true. You know, but I think, like personally, when it comes to indie projects, if you're someone who possesses a specific ability or skill that is very unique, and if you can implement that, especially when it comes to, as I said, texture and art, and that's what I'm recently starting to study myself, because I'm really bad with texture, and I'm just started actually study, like, proper methods of texturing, and learning to make good textures myself. And I've really noticed that, like, especially in your art style, like, imagine like maybe a 2D platformer, I don't know, or maybe a 3D platformer, just for the sake of art style, people will buy that. And of course, like, with just some trailers and just advertising on Twitter, that's really helpful as well. I'm sure, like 100% sure, it will take off and become a successful project. And if you want, we can talk about it later after this call as well in detail more. But I
Yeah, for
genuinely
sure.
feel I'm passionate about that personally, because I think it really has potential.
Yeah, I've developed all my my various shading styles. I do in C4D over the many years, and I've came up with various setups that like look like this and look like that, and at this point I'm quite confident that I can pull off a lot of different and interesting looks in 3D. So 2D looks in 3D, Um, and I've once I've tried a little bit of Unity and try to replicate some of these shaders in Unity, just to try if that would work, because I've seen some very cool cartoon shading done in Unity. But yeah, it with game engines, for now it didn't really click with me. If things start to get too technical, it's I've noticed it's not really my thing at some point anymore. Although I would consider myself by now quite a technical person. I'm into 3D rigging a lot. I don't know if you know that, but I've so Cinema 4D has that has some sort of auto rigging system that ships with it. It's called the character object, and it comes with a bunch of presets. So basically, it's a customizable auto rigger. You can feed it your own components and set them up in a certain way within that system, so they work for posing, and they like when you rig a character, and it will reset all the constraints automatically and all of that stuff, so everything is like zeroed out when you start out and all of that. And I've a couple of years ago, because none of the rigs that ship with C4D were able to do the kind of stuff I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be able to freely scale limbs, to bend, twist them to whatever shape I want, and I wanted certain behaviors and all of that you usually only know from like really really sophisticated Maya cartoon rigs, and nothing like that existed in C4D. So, but I didn't know much about rigging at that point. But I thought, yeah, well, just try it out and see what you can do. And to my surprise, I was able to make quite a good rig that could do what I wanted. more or less entirely. So and then I thought at some point, well, let's try and make that because I was used to using the character object, and it's just like faster for like posing the handles on your character, and like the whole rigging process is faster with this character object preset. And I thought, all right, let's also watch a tutorial about that and see if you can manage to feed that with your rig, basically, so you can use the auto rigger with your own rig. And I also managed to find out how that works, and I've done it, and it worked. It was quite tricky to learn, to be honest, but like once I really set my mind to something, I'm a bit like a pit bull, and I don't let go until I figured out how it works. So and then I was I was invited from Maxon to speak at IBC Amsterdam and to hold a presentation for them. And a small part of that presentation was also my my rig system, which I've made. And and after IBC, the guys from Maxon called me and said, "Hey, we would like to take a look at your rig, and because we are thinking about licensing it, and can you send it to us?" And I did, and they took a look, and of course they had some amends. They wanted some things changed, so it's like it wasn't very tidy in some parts, and there was a few features missing they would have liked to see, and some of it was a little bit over my head. So I've talked to a friend who's I'm not a coder at all, but then I've talked to a friend who's also not only good in rigging, but also good in Python programming, because I knew a few things I can't pull off within the like with without any coding. So and we worked on that rig for quite some time then, and then Maxon licensed it, and since version 23 it ships with C4D. So that was quite a cool experience, to be honest. We went a bit off topic here from the NFT and AI stuff, but I just thought about that because of the technical things, like I forced myself basically to be technical, although I'm not, but I still I've learned to enjoy rigging a lot. So I just love to make a character become alive, like and work on the deformations and make them look better. And I to this day I still enjoy enjoy having the occasional rigging gig in between here and there. To me, like, character rigging is a very relaxing task. To me, it's like like how it is to other people, like to do a crossword puzzle or to do some Sudoku or whatever. To me, like, character rigging is that kind of relaxing. So I always like rigging gigs.
All right. And well, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, if it's something that there's an NDA involved, we can skip right past this question. But if that's not the case, what are you doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can't go too much in detail. There's a few things that are on the horizon right now. So I'm working on. So, it's not 100% sure yet. This one on a music video, so that will be interesting. Again, I always like doing music videos, although I haven't done that many, because usually, unless you do like music videos for really big musicians usually don't have the the funds to pay an animator to do like a whole animated music video, because it's usually quite expensive, because it's like you know it yourself, it's 3-4 minutes of animation. That's quite a lot, and you sit on that for at least weeks or maybe months if it's more complex, and it's yeah, it's usually not something a musician can pay you, unless there's like a real big record company behind it. And then again, you don't really want to do it, because it's getting complicated. Like, if you can work together with an artist, with a musician directly, then it's fine. But then if there's like a big record company with like a whole a marketing department involved, then it always gets in my experience, it gets really painful. And yeah, with like endless revisions nobody can understand or whatnot, and yeah, I'd rather not do that. Other than that, I'm working on a few collaborations also in the NFT space, which I can't talk about yet. Also on a new piece. I've started doing the music last week, so my mind is already starting to think about how the things look like. Yeah, but other than that, nothing specific. I mean, I do have my occasional small things here and there that trickle in from steady client. Like, can you rig a character here, or can you do that? It's just the usual daily business.
All right. And what area, beside the area you're working on right now, which is of course in the realms of art and design and just visual arts, would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Like, aside from art, what other aspirations and ambitions you have outside of art that you want to
Outside of
explore?
art,
Yeah.
to be honest, nothing. I would love to try stop motion at some point, but I think I've in my head I've kind of reserved learning stop motion until until I retire. But then I'm gonna start doing stop motion for sure. Because like, then I have the time and patience, like, to build little models and do all of that, and just work for a month on a few on 2 seconds of animation.
Yeah.
But I always loved a stop motion. I'm a huge fan of like stop motion movies, and I just find them aesthetically so pleasing. And I always like, even as a child, I had like, I always had a thing for like miniatures. I always loved miniatures, and I always loved the look that miniatures, that captures of miniatures give you. Like, it always feels very special, and I love that.
All right. And well, we reached the final section and question of the podcast, which is called Time Capsule. And I think before, even without me explaining, I think you could guess what it's about. It's a time capsule
Probably.
for the future. If you could say anything, it doesn't have to be art related from your side, just an authentic way. Just say anything you want. Imagine it's going to be opened up in 500 years or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, in the future.
Oh, that's
Not
okay.
just
The
500
other way,
years at any point.
the other way around is more easy. If you go into the past, then it's more easy into the future. What would I say? Phew. I don't know. It depends on how things work out in the next couple of years. Maybe the time capsule will say, I don't know, you better wouldn't have developed AI that can train itself. I don't know. We will see. Maybe it's totally a good thing. I don't have any ideas, but
or maybe a piece of advice from your whole life experience. Maybe you could say some important notes.
It's gonna sound cheesy if I say it.
Doesn't
now.
matter, cheesy and cliche. That's what most people say. It's fine. Just say it. Come on.
Yeah, then I have to go back to what we said in the beginning. It's just I always like to quote a song from Jazzy Jeff that's called "For the Love of the Game." I don't know if you know that one. It's like a hip hop classic, and the lines go like, love what you do and do what you love. That's always my motto in everything in life. I try to follow that as much as I can, because I know nothing else will make me personally happy. And if I'm happy, like, probably the people around me are happy or happier. I hope so. So that's always something I try to live by. Other than that, I don't really have any real smart life advice, because I've done everything wrong you can do wrong in life. So I'm probably not the best person to ask for life advice.
No, here's an interesting thing I noticed. Whenever I ask this question, a lot of people have this anxiety of for not to be a perfect answer. What defines perfect? Like, it doesn't matter. It's I think, like, one of the things about this podcast for me is, I think I've had guests from all different levels when it comes to their journey, and also all just a variety of different, like, guests in everything. All right, and what I value a lot is just that everyone, regardless of, like, their experience or where they are, they have some nugget of thing that we can all learn from. And maybe people say the same thing over and over again, but the way people phrase it could also, be like a eureka moment for the rest of the people. It's not just about the message, it's also about the expression of the message as well. Does that make sense? And that's what one of the things that really is fascinating for me when I do the podcast as well. And yeah, actually, that was actually, a really good point. Love what you do and do what you love. Yep, that's a really actually great line. And
love that song.
Yeah, I'll actually try to go listen to it after this, actually, because I have never listened to it. It must be good. You said Jazz.
Oh, it's really
what was the
good.
name of the singer, you said?
It's from Jazzy Jeff.
Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah.
All right. And all right. Thanks so much for coming by the podcast. Appreciate your time. It was a real pleasure. Where can people contact you and find you if they had any, questions or anything, or just want to reach out?
Yeah, you can either find me on Twitter or Instagram under the same handle. It's at everfreshdesign, just one word, or just go to everfresh.design.de and drop me a mail if you like. Everything is fine. I always try to answer all DMs and emails I get from anyone, regardless what it's about, as long as they are not obviously trying to scam me, which is also an experience I've made in the NFT space. That are a lot of people that are trying to fuck you over, basically.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna answer those, but if your message sounds somewhat genuine, and I will definitely answer it.
All right. Again, thanks so much for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode or watched it on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well. As always, if there's any suggestions or comments or critiques, please leave them down in the comment section down below. And also do keep an eye out on the YouTube channel as well. I have a lot of plans for this year for the YouTube channel. I have a lot of lists of videos I want to work on and upload there. So make sure you're subscribed there as well. And if you're interested in arts-related subjects and stuff like that, of course, obviously. And that's about it. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.